Good morning. Thanks for joining me. I'm Donald Collins, Scoview, London, and we're going to be looking at the possible implications on the local property market, COVID-19. Appreciate, first and foremost, this is a really difficult time for us all, and I hope that you are safe and well, and your family is, and your extended family is. We're working remotely at GoView London. We're still speaking to a lot of clients. A lot of you are concerned regarding media sort of speculation, headlines, and the possible implications. What I hope to do with this presentation is give you some good context, some hard data points over 23 years of land registry figures that will help draw your own interpretations over where we are and where we're going. I will naturally give you some analysis on those figures as well. That's coming from 16 years worth of experience in the market. I set GoView up in 2010 with business partner Brian Light, heads up the lettings division. So this analysis will hopefully give you some more confidence in the market. I will give some interpretation over trends that I see within it, but that's coming from that place of sort of 16 years experience and being involved day in, day out with the market. So I'm going to share the screen with you. I've got a presentation here that hopefully will come through for us. Right, let's see, there it is. Right, good. Okay, so I'm going to put this into slideshow mode. My contact details, top left, mobile. I've spoken to most of you. If we haven't spoke before and you have any specific questions on this, if you have any feedback on the presentation, please get in touch. Email address there as well. LinkedIn details for connections, and also I'm not prolific on Twitter, but by all means, please follow me if you so wish. We've got a few aspects to talk about. Initially, when this pandemic was becoming very clear in terms of its seriousness, and my thoughts, obviously after the general implications, turned to what it might mean for us as a business. My first thought was to think about credit crunch. I worked through that market. What were the comparisons? This presentation will look at data from there and a couple of data points. And then also where we are in today's market and how that might compare to 2008. But we draw on data from the Land Registry going back 23 years, the UK House Price Index, and we've homed in specific to the London Borough of Ealing. Now, we obviously, as a company, we have offices in Ealing and Acton, and that makes up a proportion of the Borough of Ealing. But the Borough of Ealing goes from Hayes in the west to Shepherd's Bush in the east towards central London, and we go up to Wembley in the north and border Brentford in the south. So it's a very large area. It's 340,000 people. It's bigger than a lot of countries, so quite a large data sample. That data sample is here. Sales volume column on the left, central, and then the average price. We will send this presentation out so you can look at this in your own time as well. And I'll do an overview of it just now for you. So looking overall at that information, the market up 350% in 23 years. When credit crunch happened, obviously there was a fall in the market for 2 years, 6.7 and 2.2, so an average of about 4.5% fall. And some commentators have suggested that that might be where we're heading in today's market. But I would argue that looking at the transaction levels, it seems to me that the market was a lot more transient before the credit crunch. If you look at the numbers of actual sales, there was a lot more sales leading up to credit crunch than there is present day. And we'll go into the reasons why that. Obviously, Brexit's a major impact on that. What also is very interesting is when you compare those transaction numbers, interest rates were a lot higher in the lead up to the credit crunch. So it's actually more affordable to buy property now in the Borough of Ealing when you consider the lower interest rate, even though the average price today is 475 compared to 307 in 2007. So how does this information crystallize? Well, we've covered the average price decline there just on Credit Crunch in the year after. However, the average transaction numbers, 5962 in the 4 years preceding Credit Crunch. 4 years up to now, we're running at 2816. That's a massive decline of 52% on a like-for-like basis. So a really different environment today, with potentially quite a bit more pent-up demand in the market of buyers who have adopted a wait-and-see approach. That plays into a historical context. If you look at the 10 years to 2009 to the most recent 10 years, we were at a fall of 40% in sales volumes. So even allowing for that, the last 4 years have been still 11% under the long-term 10-year trend. So we're really running at very low volume at the minute. And don't mistake that with falling value. You know, sometimes in the media you see a report and it says sales volumes are running very low, and then they get onto a value question. It can quite often mean the opposite, because it can quite often mean that there's not enough suitable properties in the market for families to buy. And as a result of that, the few houses that you do have in the market, the values are higher. So don't confuse low sales volumes with low value. It can quite often mean the reverse. And what I think's been interesting in the last 4 years is hearing from so many people, talking to so many people who are adopting a wait and see approach, because clearly then that's had an impact on the sales volumes, and that pent up demand might now be coming to the sort of fore in the market. It's also a more affordable time to buy just now in the market, and thanks to Andy Walker, BKD Financial, Rob Still, Domus Finance, who helped me crystallise some of these numbers. But when you look at the average price points, when we discuss this as a sales team with buyers and hopefully giving buyers some clarity to the purchase decision, we don't just say, oh, 2007 it was 307, last year the average price was 475. It's actually more affordable to buy property now because interest rates have come down so much. So effectively, there's £125,000 worth of free money there that you simply get for the same amount of repayment as you did going back sort of 12 years essentially to 2007. So it's a lot more of an affordable market today than it was in the run-up to the credit crunch. So looking at these factors then, okay, it's a more affordable market. Why have transaction volumes been so low? Well, clearly the Brexit is the elephant in the room. A lot of people have adopted a wait and see approach. If you think about the political and the media influence in the last 4 years, the Brexit vote was June 2016. Coupled with this, the amount of elections that we've had over the last 6 years, leading back to the Scottish independence vote in 2014. There was then a general election 2015, Brexit vote 2016. We then had the general election of 2017, which led to a lot of people thinking that a socialist government could well be a reality in the country, because Jeremy Corbyn did very well at the election. So that was impacting on people's decisions to buy, because whatever your political beliefs, if there was a socialist government, it would lead to a real implication for the housing market. And of course, we had the general election last year as well. So we had that whole bubble of uncertainty in the market for the last 4 or 5 years. Additionally, you look at the buy-to-let spectrum. The Bank of England started to regulate the buy-to-let market in 2016. If you are purchasing a buy-to-let property today, you now need to put a higher deposit in, because your rental payment has to be 145% of the mortgage payment. That, coupled with higher taxation on the buy-to-let landlord, it's now the only part of the economy that's really taxed on turnover, not profit. So these factors have sort of put people off buy-to-let in the last few years. That's clear to see. So you've had very low transaction volumes in the last 4 years, mainly because of these reasons. You know, a lot of residential buyers thinking that they shouldn't buy because of what's been reported. You know, George Osborne came out at the time of the referendum vote and said that prices would fall by 18%. Clearly that hasn't happened, but that type of commentary and that type of informed, what's meant to be informed opinion coming out has put buyers off. So I would suggest there's a lot of sort of pent up demand in the market, but that's the reason why we've seen so few transactions in the last sort of four years. So what we're looking to interpret on this, well, I've covered that point regarding pent up demand. You didn't have that in the run up to the credit crunch. The credit crunch was the sort of culmination of a lot of transactions happening, a lot of investor money in the market. You simply haven't had that. And the market, with this 5 or 6 years of uncertainty, with all these elections that I've just gone into, has been really robust. It's actually moved up 2.7% every year from November 2014 to November last year. So remarkable, really. And I'm actually having calls now from buy-to-let landlords who have said, well, my stock portfolio's gone down 30%. You know, one chap was almost 40% down, and they're saying, what can I do on a buy-to-let? Because that's where, you know, I want to place my money now. So I think you're going to have a combination of buyers come back to the market. And when you consider over the 23-year piece, obviously it's up 350% over that time. But when you look at the falls in the market, it's only fallen 4 years out of those 23s, and 2 of those years have been in the last 2 years. So some good points that we've interpreted, and obviously you can draw your own conclusions from the information as well. So in summary, hope that we've sort of given you a sort of good, clear picture over current context of the market and how it might react. If you have any valuation requirements, please get in touch. We obviously can't physically visit you at the property, but we can have good conversations with you about possible work you might want to do, about comparable properties. We've got lots of sold comparables, and hopefully that will lead into you sort of making a real proactive sort of move decision later on this year. If you want to speak to us individually, this will come out in the presentation. You might have an individual contact within the office. We're sort of here, we're ready to help. Details there for sales, for lettings, for property management. Joanna and Soraya have done a real high volume worth of work. You can imagine speaking to landlords and tenants at the moment. If you've got a question for them, and even if it's a property that we don't manage, we'd be delighted to try and help you out with it, even, you know, if it's not covered by our sort of portfolio agreement. We will certainly try and assist you with it. So thanks very much for your time. Please stay safe. Hope everyone is keeping as well as we can be. I know lockdown's very tough, but, you know, we just all have to get through this, and we all look forward to coming back and serving you. I know our better halves are looking for us to leave the house and get back to work as well. So we will be delighted to be back. And thank you very much for tuning into this. Thank you for being a client, and look forward to being back and working for you in the very near future. Take care. All the best.